This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio on our flagship station 790 KBC or on XM 165 or at KLEANradio.com. My co-host with the most, Andrew Spanswick, is in London right now, England, and he's listening, so I want to say in English, hello.
Hello, Andrew.
Yeah, hello out there. And in the studio tonight with us, co-hosting, is Erica Spiegelman.
Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Yeah, it is a happy Sunday.
It's a beautiful Sunday here in LA.
You just got back from San Francisco. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I won't ask what you were doing in San Francisco. But I want to tell you about a thought I had the other night. I was sitting in a meeting, and I was sitting in a 12-step meeting, and I was sitting there. I was thinking about fear, and I posted this on Facebook today. And I was thinking about, like, alcoholics, addicts, we really don't have that much fear. You know, we don't have fear of consequences, but we have fear. You know,
I think everyone has some fear.
Tons of but alcoholics and addicts are riddled with fear.
Yeah.
It's a major reason they drink. It's a major reason.
They're frozen in fear.
Frozen in fear.
Yeah.
My whole life I was paralyzed by fear.
Right.
But I had no fear of the consequences.
Right.
It's a fascinating thing.
Well, because I think also when you are, using substances, your brain, I mean, how it starts wiring, it becomes affected by the substances, and you don't really see, the long-term effects of it, and you're kind of in denial, the big word denial again, so.
But I think, and I think the people out there, you have families and a lot of people out there that are listening, and it's really a hard thing for family members to understand. It's a hard thing for anybody that's surrounded by an alcoholic to understand, because I always say you can't punish a drug addict. You can't punish an alcoholic, because how do you punish somebody that's willing to die? Right.
Well, they're betraying themselves. So how can you punish somebody that is really inflicted with self-betrayal? Because self-betrayal is the worst kind of betrayal, really. And so, yeah, it's hard for a family member to understand that. But at the same time, when you said fear, I was just thinking, didn't you have a little bit of fear, like deep down inside, like, what am I doing with my life?
The truth be told, it's actually a great question. And no, I didn't, because when I drank I share this all the time. It's, when I was 17 years old or 18 years old, people weren't asking me anymore where I'm going to go to college. It was like, where are you going to go to rehab?
They've accepted it.
Yeah. And
wow.
I had lowered the expectation levels, and I was okay with the expectations because they were matching to my fears.
Right.
And so no longer did I have to be fearful of what I could do.
Right.
I had lowered the bar so much.
Well, you were kind of existing on a lower vibration because
You're using some great words tonight. Like you watched the Dog Whisperer before you came here.
No, because it's true. But when people start doing things that are harmful to themselves, they start vibrating, or their vibrational levels a little bit lower sometimes. Yeah.
I haven't heard that, but okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
Your vibration lower. But there are people out there right now, and there are a lot of people that are driving that really don't. Addiction is a hard thing to understand, especially when it's your family. And so if you're driving around right now and you have any sort of question, give us a call. The number here is 888-375-3613. That's 888-375-3613. And we could talk about it like sort of jokingly, and and I think having survived and having been sober, you're able to laugh at the stories. But as people are going through them,
well, yeah, I had the fear though. I mean, even deep down inside, I always was fearful of what am I doing with my life? How can I get out of this? I felt hopeless, and I think a lot of people out there do feel hopeless.
Which is amazing because you actually went to college.
Yes.
You were managing. You were, totally opposite of me.
Right.
I used to look at people like you and go, how could you be an alcoholic?
We come in many different shapes and sizes.
Right. But even me as an alcoholic, I had a hard time understanding that somebody else that had,
could function.
I didn't understand, because I think
Isn't
when you
that
get
funny?
Right. Because I think when you get sober young, there was no functioning.
Yeah.
The older you get when you get sober, you had to have a modicum of functionability.
Well, you had to put on a mask, and walk around.
But you were surviving.
Yeah, I was surviving, but internally, like I always tell you, I wasn't really
No, you're
surviving.
definitely not surviving.
Yeah,
so if you have any questions about any of this stuff, give us a call again. The number is 888-375-3613. That's 888-375-3613. I was going to share the story, by the way, how I accidentally sprayed air freshener in my mouth the other day.
You did? I didn't hear that in there.
Zycam.
Oh my.
Yeah, because I'm scared of getting sick. So I've been taking the Zicam spray that says, if you take it within the first 48 hours of feeling. So I was in the car driving,
Yeah.
and I got stuck in traffic. So I sprayed the air freshener.
Oh my God,
But it
you
wasn't
didn't.
like the cherry one. It was like the one that's like the new car odor.
Oh, no.
And I'm spitting up on the 5
no.
driving down. So if anybody saw me driving down the 5 spitting up, it wasn't.
Just pretend it
It
didn't
was
happen.
yeah. And we have an amazing show tonight. We have one of my oldest and dearest friends since I've been in
Yeah.
Los Angeles. We've been friends for many, many years. He's been a good friend, and let's welcome to Clean Radio, Louie Sabatasso.
Ooh, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi there.
And Louie's actually got an amazing new movie that's coming out on iTunes, and it's coming out on Netflix this month. It's called Wish You Were Here. And I saw this, and we were going to watch it, but you went out of town. And Louie, it's a really good movie.
I have
Oh,
to-
thank you. Yes, it was a lot of fun to make. It's interesting that you mentioned the air. What was it? The air freshener stuff,
Yeah.
because people get high on
Yeah.
the air fresheners
Yeah.
and the huffers.
Yeah.
There was a friend. I had a friend who was at. We were talking about Beit Teshuva before we came on, and I had a friend who was at Beit Teshuva, and
Which is a rehab in Los Angeles.
Yes.
It's a rehab.
Yes.
It's a Jewish-based rehab in Los Angeles, and this kid they were doing dust off, and I'd never heard of people getting high on dust off, and this kid was huffing dust
Right.
off and like
Right.
peed his pants like in our room because he was so high on dust off, and then I had a friend actually overdose and die from huffing dust off.
No, this is a serious addiction.
It's a serious the whole huffing.
Absolutely.
It's the one thing I never did.
Thank
Never.
God. Yeah.
Thank
there
God.
was- yeah. And, it's funny that it's not funny, but we talk about this stuff. And, every kid, when I was younger in school,
Yeah.
there was always that one kid that sniffed white out.
Yeah.
Oh, I sniffed white out.
Right. There was
I did
always,
white
and,
out.
Or the pens, the whiteboard pens,
Right.
or nail polish.
right.
Yeah.
And so those are, but in your new movie, it's about somebody that gets out of rehab.
Yes, I play a character who gets out of rehab in Venice, and on the beach in Venice, and my estranged brother, picks me up, and we embark on sort of an accidental road trip all the way across the United States. And it's interesting, and it's really close to home because I have a very uncomfortable relationship as it is with my actual older brother. And it would be probably very similar to actually how that movie went, like had we ever embarked on a cross-country journey together. So it was interesting in that regard, but it's also it was so close to my experience in early recovery, because it's very early recovery. The guy gets out of drug rehab,
Right.
and he's in a car with his brother, and all of a sudden they're going across the country. And all of the things and all the fears and all the weird stuff that's coming up in early recovery is in that film. And it's
Right.
I don't think people understand early recovery enough, and I don't think it's talked about enough.
Yeah.
Because when family members send you to rehab, they think, oh, you're going to come out like it's like the laundry.
You come out and you're fine.
Right, you're coming out, you're fine, you're great, you're back to, I guess, old Louie. But
Yeah.
they don't understand that it's this amazingly long journey.
Well, there's so many triggers, right, when you leave rehab, and I always tell my clients that, we have to have a safety plan, and you have to be aware of your red flags, because just like a brother could be very triggering if you didn't get along with your brother.
Oh, the family and I don't know what it's. Then the family seems to be so involved in
Right.
early recovery,
Right.
whether
Right.
you've been estranged for them forever or
Right,
not.
right. You haven't
they're
seen
there,
them.
and
You haven't
have
seen
to
your
see them.
family in 40 years.
But
you
you're
go to
gonna see
rehab.
them.
They're
But it's
there.
really-
you
it's
go
a-
to rehab and you're going to see them, and it's
Yeah.
just and it's like the old joke, and you hear this all the time. Of course, the family knows what buttons to push. They installed them.
Right.
Exactly.
And my
Right.
older brother was a chief installer. If you're out there listening, I love you, Spencer. Chief installer of many of my buttons, especially my insecurity ones.
Right.
And he knows what to say. And this script, written by James O'Brien, who directed it, we were actually doing a film up in Idlewild about 6 months before we left to shoot this film. And he said, "Tell me your story." And I sort of told him a little bit of my drug story. And he loosely, he didn't base this movie on that at all, but because he didn't really know anything about addiction.
Right.
And he took that and he wrote this character and wrote this film. And when I read the first 10 pages of the script, and he had me coming out of the rehab at the crack of dawn, walking straight out to the ocean, sitting on the beach, looking around, and then jumping in the ocean. I was like, dude, that's exactly what I would have done.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like, that's exactly what I would have done having spent 3 months in rehab. I would have walked out, jumped in the ocean. Like, I don't know what that is, or you wash or rid yourself
A
or whatever.
rebirth kinda.
Rebirth, or,
Yeah.
purify yourself in the waters of Lake Winnetonka, like in Purple Rain. But I said, this guy's got it, and he knew the voice, and he heard it, and that's when I knew we were going to make this film, and it was going to be how it was. So it was amazing experience, especially to put a crew together and go cross country, and make this film.
Right.
It was remarkable. It was a truly independent film. And it was an amazing experience.
I'm looking forward to watching it.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. My co-host with the most is not here tonight. He's in England. So we have the great Erica Spiegelman sitting next to me.
Replacement.
And we have an amazing guest tonight, one of my oldest and dearest friends, Louie Sabatasso, who's got a movie that's coming out on Netflix and on iTunes, and it's called Wish You Were Here. But you've also done a lot. You've been, in and around the industry for a long time, and your addictions have, stumbled you a little bit.
Yeah, my addictions have stumbled me, but now conversely they've given, because of my addictions and being in recovery,
right,
and especially being in the program, and now all of my relationships and so many opportunities have come out of my being in recovery.
Right.
And if I was never addicted, I would have never been in recovery. So who knows where the opportunities would have come. It's a weird, it's starting with the Camp Freddy stuff and directing those documentaries and doing the thing for Velvet Revolver, and all of that was I had these amazing friends who were sober, and they decided to go do these amazing music projects, and they wanted other sober people around them, and I could work a camera and knew some things. So
we're talking about music, by the way, and you're talking about doing a road trip movie, but there's this story out in Renew magazine right now, and it's the top 10 addiction recovery songs. And everybody out there that's listening, I mean, if you go to this list, because it's one of the worst lists I've ever. I want to meet the people that are listening to these recovery songs, because the number one is Keith Urban, "You're Not My God." I don't want to knock on Keith Urban because I'm not into.
Here we go.
Is that
okay? Please turn it off.
This is a recovery song.
That could be a trigger. And
these are more using songs.
It's a recovery song. I would imagine if I was on a road trip and I had just gotten sober, Louie, my taste in music, it's a little odd. But
Judah likes every depressing rock ballad ever written.
That's very true.
Only if it's done in the decade in the 1980s.
But
or
some of these,
Killers.
some of these songs seem like they're maybe not so hopeful for some of these people. It seems like they're kind of dark and.
First of all, I've never even heard of Seether. I've never heard of New Buffalo. I've heard of Neil Young and Needle and Damage Done. How could that be a sober?
Well,
well, because it's Needle and Damage Done actually sort of interestingly is because it's such a dark song. It's such a description of the destruction of being a junkie.
Yeah.
So the story, by the way, just so everybody knows, it's according to Renew magazine. These are the top 10 addiction recovery songs. Number 1, Keith Urban, "You're Not My God." Number 2, Red Hot Chili Peppers, "Under the Bridge." Great song. No, I like the Chili Peppers. Number 3, Neil Young, "Needle and the Damage Done." Eminem, "Not Afraid." Jane's Addiction, "Jane Says." New Buffalo, "Recovery." Seether, "Fine Again." Aerosmith, "Amazing." Of all the Aerosmith songs,
I know,
did they
really?
put Aerosmith "Amazing" on there?
Yeah.
And Amy Mann, who I heard the name, is "Wise Up," and Leonard Skinner, "That Smell," which he told me is about cocaine. So I'm trying to figure out how these are recovered. I think these are all using songs.
Yeah, they're using songs.
Well, I mean,
I think they asked somebody that was using to say their favorite.
Well, there's songs about drugs are in the songs, and it's about drugs.
Yeah, it's an interesting list. I don't know that I've ever. I mean, definitely. Listen, we all have those CDs and stuff that we listen to when things are really dark.
Yes.
And
music could be
usually
very
a couple of those
helpful.
songs were on that usually. On the very dark
For me,
time
it's
list.
"Come a Camellia." That's my favorite song to listen to in recovery.
Would that be the Boy George?
That
one?
would be the Boy George song.
All right.
I like
all
Pink
right.
Sober. Pink song "Sober" is a great song.
I'm not familiar
To
with
me, a
it.
recovery song, in all seriousness, a recovery song, like one of the best recovery songs to me is "One" by U2.
It's a great song.
That's an amazing. If you listen to the lyrics of "One,"
Yeah.
it's a deep, hopeful recovery song.
Right.
There's a lot of good music out there.
There's a lot of great recovery songs.
Yeah,
out there.
and actually, I'd love to hear from people out there. So give us a call at 888-375-3613. That's 888-375-3613. I've actually posted this on our Facebook page, and I can't think of the answers because we get tons of answers. But I could tell you none of these songs, as far as
I've never heard
recovery
of them.
songs, none of these artists made the list. Well, I think the Chili Peppers have made the list because I think the Chili Peppers go either way. You could listen to them when you're high. I don't mean their sexuality. I mean, you could listen to them when you're high or getting sober too. That's their, but Jane says that's one of those you're listening to when you're high.
Well, I actually had a conversation with Anthony one time, and I asked him, I was like, so many of your lyrics are obviously recovery.
That's Anthony
based.
Kiedis from the Chili Peppers.
Yeah, and he said, I said, obviously, like, give it away now, and I've got a bad disease, and just so on. And he sort of denied it, but it didn't really hold much water.
Yeah.
Because he had a big smile on his face as he was saying that. But it's obviously because he's a guy who, has had most of his success since he got sober for the first time when he stayed sober 5 years in like the late 80s, early 90s.
The beauty of music is you can interpret it as you wish.
Any way you want, yeah.
And it helps people.
And that's actually one of the rare stories, because most of the time it's a lot of bands that had a lot of success then get sober.
Yeah.
The Chili Peppers are the reverse in a sense, that they had little success, but then they got sober and just through the roof.
Well, yeah, and it's also the power of staying relevant in music for as long as they have when they're all and listen, recovery is one thing, but they're all very sort of spiritually conscious.
You're growing as a human.
And you're growing, and they've all very into evolving and growing, and because of that, they've stayed relevant.
Well, it's the difference
And they're very
between
talented.
Poison and the Chili Peppers.
I think that's not the only difference between Poison and the Chili Peppers, Judah. Some might say there's a couple more differences.
Yeah, but
between those
I'm
two
just
bands,
saying, but just using that as an example, like you hear certain musicians that were very popular in the 80s, they stopped growing.
Yes.
They haven't had a new album since 1985.
Or they didn't really have any place to grow.
Or they had health
argument.
issues.
Yeah,
Right?
hey, let's knock Poison, okay? One of the best behind the music's ever made.
Oh, Judah. Now
And-
we're going to start with the Judah music collection.
Okay, listen, Tesla was a great band. I actually quoted them
Love
on
Tesla.
Facebook, by the way. I didn't quote. I put a quote up on, and somebody goes, "Love that band, epic," and I was like, "That's
Somebody called
I love
Tesla
Tesla.
Epic.
epic." Yeah.
Oh my
That's,
gosh.
and I don't think they meant the car.
That might have been Joey Feldman.
I didn't know you liked Tesla.
I'm one of the biggest Tesla fans you'll ever meet. And if you just tuned
And
in,
the
this isn't
only.
the Tesla Music Hour. This is Clean Radio. Give us a call out there. I know a lot of people are struggling, and this is like one of the hardest things to actually talk about. I mean, it's really amazing that we're in the year 2013, and people are still scared to talk about what's issues they're having.
Right. Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes is, Jamie Lee Curtis, who's sober a really long time, and she was saying, in I'll find the magazine in a second, that sobriety is one of the biggest, achievements of her life.
She's fantastic. She's really rallied, and especially in the Los Angeles area for a lot of kids that want to get sober, and she's done a lot of work around
That a lot of people don't know either.
and around prevention. She's
Yeah.
written books. She's been wonderful.
To very little fanfare, to just doing it.
Yeah,
in
to
the
actually just
altruistic
doing it, yeah.
because you want to help people.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
And, not being seen. And, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's Jamie Lee Curtis.
But she's open with it. I mean,
Yeah.
she's open about recovery and her own story.
Really? I've never heard her
Oh, yeah,
until this article on Good Housekeeping.
I had heard it.
I heard her
before.
talk. Yeah, she's excellent.
The other thing too, it's the adage of like you're only truly the most intense and rewarding service is when you do something for somebody and don't tell even them that you did it for them.
Yes. Yeah.
Let alone everybody else.
Well, it shows your character.
It shows your character. So, but
Yeah.
that is the most difficult thing in the world.
Right.
Like just being in rehab, like, all right, just go make somebody's bed and don't tell them.
Right. And not get any credit
And
for
all
it.
day long, you're like, oh, I hope he just just mentions the bed was made.
And how
it
many
was
times
made
did you walk up into
beautifully.
the bay and go, during the day and go, your bed looked great?
Yeah,
I know,
or
exactly.
hey man, how you doing today? How's that bedroom? What's
all
wrong
want-
with the bed?
We all want a little ego stroke now and then.
It's very difficult. So to have a whole thing about being that.
So let me ask you a question. So you're in a movie now called, we're in the studio with Louie Sabatasso, who's got a movie out now called Wish You Were Here. How many rehabs, which is about a guy that gets out of rehab and his brother comes and picks him up. How many rehabs have you been in?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Judah. I actually was asked that question this morning, and I started listing some of them off. I've checked into more rehabs than I can count.
Right.
But that means checked in, stayed for 6 hours, stay for a day, stay for a day and a half, and leave. That's not ones that I actually went and did the entire program for are not that many. Maybe 15, but I probably checked into 40. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount, and more than that, there's been an abundance of mental hospitals that I've checked into. Always under the it was always based on a lie. I would always go in because I didn't really have any other place to go, and I needed 3 days of detox, and I knew the system, which is say you're suicidal and they have to keep you. Right. And I ended up spending an inordinate amount of time in
and probably money.
And with that money later on, but the one thing that did do is it was amazing when you talk about acting in this film and acting in general. First of all, having to play that part to get them to admit me, and then to keep me in there for a month, and having to stay in character for 24 hours a day in some sort of character like that was really actually helped me and served me. And
I'm sure. How old were you when you started using drugs or alcohol?
Same age as most people, probably 11 or
6.
12. 6. No, I was like 12.
He was using heroin he actually has
But
an
that's
amazing
interesting
story.
to find out when people started using and how it just they emotionally just continue on like that for.
Well, I think the more I agree, but I think also like with the rehab, like we were talking about before, is that there are people that are listening that think, oh, you go into rehab and all of a sudden you're done, you're healthy,
right?
And it's like maybe every rehab that you needed to go to was the building point to where you finally were able to get help.
All of it is building blocks for later on, and the different pockets of sobriety that I've had. I've been a guy who's stayed sober for a couple of years, go back out. Stayed sober for a couple of years, you go back out, and all of that and all of those experiences, the obviously the sober time and the going out time. There's lessons in all of it. I don't encourage anybody to go out once you're in. I don't encourage anybody to relapse, but my path has been such that there's been relapses in it, and all of it. Where I'm with where I'm at now has been very valuable, and
if you do go out, you could always come back,
right.
and you could always continue on.
Yeah. And you've actually had an amazing thing, but for the grace of somebody, you've had the ability to come back.
Yeah.
And be humble, be humbled, or
He seems very grateful for it.
A lot of people are scared to come back because of judgment, and you've had to face that.
Yeah, and that's the worst.
Yeah.
You come in and you find this sanctuary and this beauty and this solution. You get sober, and then somebody else comes in who may be a retread or coming back in off relapse, and you judge them. It's like I don't get that at all. It's like they have alcoholism.
We're going to talk about that after the break, and we're going to get the calls when we come back. If you're in your car at home or just walking out and you're listening to the show right now, you most likely have questions about addiction or comments on the topics we're talking about. So give us a call at 888-375-3613. That's 888-375-3613. The discussion continues at cleanradio.com.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.
Welcome back to Clean Radio. I'd like to welcome everybody out there listening. Andrew's not in here unless he lost a lot of weight and had a sex change. But now we have Erica Abfab Spiegelman.
Yes. I'm happy to fill in for Andrew anytime.
And you just got off the plane from San Francisco.
Yes, I did.
And you look very happy.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm sober and I'm healthy and I have a family that's healthy and I can't complain.
So you're actually...
I'm grateful. I try to stay grateful every day,
We're also in the studio with Louie Sabatasso, a really good friend who's got a new movie coming out called on iTunes and Netflix called Wish You Were Here. It's about a journey of somebody that actually, when they leave rehab, and that's one of the things I really do think leaving rehab is a journey. It's an amazing journey. If you choose, a lot of people don't though.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the cool things about the movie is that it shows what the journey.
Yeah, and it is definitely a journey, and this is a film that's actually about a journey. It's about a physical journey across country and a journey from someone when they get out of rehab. And one of the great things about this film is that it deals specifically with the journey in regards to the family, because it's with the gentleman who plays Gary Cohn, who plays
good guy,
great guy, great guy, very sober, very good guy.
Yeah.
And he
plays your brother, right?
He plays my brother, and we engage in this journey together. And it's interesting because so much of emotionally what happens when you get out of rehab and get out of a situation like that comes through in this film and comes through with my character and with Gary, and it's good. It's interesting.
I think it's so nice you address that whole family situation, because I have clients that go out of, that come out of rehab and they really want an aftercare plan involving how do they deal with their family, how do they relate to them, how do they explain to them what they just been through. There's a lot of questions out there that people are scared to kind of confront. They're scared to walk back into their old lives or their old families, and how do they address those family members that don't know how to treat them.
Yeah, and that was addressed in this film by us being in a car together and him wanting to kill me most of the time, and I him most of the time, and just as brothers sort of go at it anyway.
Right.
And all of the unresolved stuff that we had, fictitiously between us in our family, came up as the road trip went on, and all of his anger came out. And interestingly enough, and this also happens with the families, and why it becomes such a interesting journey is because all of their defects are going to come out too.
Yeah.
And all of their stuff that they're dealing with is going to come out too. And all of Gary's character's stuff came out as well as this road trip went on, and we had to sort of deal with his as well.
Right.
And you kind of come to it together, and it became a journey for everybody. We ended up picking up a girl along the way. The character's name is Phoenix, played by Erwin Ambrose, who's wonderful and amazing in the film. And we pick up her character, and she's going through her own journey that has something to do with one of her family members in a death and some trauma that she went through. So we all are going through what we're going through and why we're embarking on this journey. But it's there's a lot of light.
So I think everybody should just go on a road trip when they leave rehab.
You should leave rehab.
Just like pack up a whole minivan or the
and
whole
just
family
go.
and just
yes.
go.
But you know what's so interesting, really quick, is that when family members don't get help themselves, and the person, like when you went back and you were sober and your family, like, I think it's important to talk about that family members should also try to seek some help or counseling or understanding or read something so that they know what that person has been through.
Well, what's amazing is the last couple of weeks, obviously, we've had, a couple, the two Denises that have called in that have spoken about that they've been taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
So by the time their kids are needing help,
Right.
they know what to do with them.
Yeah, I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's tremendously important. So, but we're giving even a bigger suggestion, which is saying rent a minivan and go on a road trip the second you get out of rehab.
Yes.
I don't know if that's
But that's only going to work. You have to listen. You have to be in rehab, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's in rehab. You got that one person in your family that really, really you just didn't get along with, and the one person who could really push those buttons.
I don't know.
You have to have that
Usually it's
person
us.
rent a car and pick you up and just engage on a long, long road trip just with that person.
As a counselor, I will have to say that I don't.
And I think you should be forced to
that.
listen to Renew's top 10 recovery songs.
And if it's Judah, you'll get to listen to Tesla, and you'll get to listen to what else, Judah?
The Killers. I mean, the
and
Killers,
the Goo Goo Dolls.
The Killers
and the
are
Goo Goo Dolls.
fantastic.
Yeah, the Goo Goo Dolls have some of the best recovery songs ever made. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. Iris is an amazing song.
I don't
Shout
even
out
know
to
it.
Goo Goo Dolls.
Listen, the Goo Goo Dolls are sober.
That's great.
They had one of the best behind the musics of all time, and them and Poison, and yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was a great film. It's called Wish You Were Here. It's on iTunes. There's other films called Wish You Were Here.
There's also a
on
famous
iTunes.
song
And there's
called
also a
Wish-
famous
yeah.
song called Wish
By
You
a
Were
little
Here.
band known
little
as,
band called
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd. That was actually the title song that for the film, and we unfortunately had some problems getting the rights to that song.
Yeah,
as
probably.
everybody does when they try to get the rights to that song. So
They wanted a few shekel.
well, they wanted a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah, so if you're out there, by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio, that's Clean with a K, give us a call at 888-375-3613. That's 888-375-3613. I think it's really cool that you're talking about, let's talk about a little bit about, getting back into work and, you're getting sober. You're going through all these processes, and families always don't understand that it takes a while. Erica, the sobriety thing. That sometimes you need to focus on you before you could get.
Oh yeah, well you can't overwhelm yourself. You have to have a balance in the beginning. You don't want to. You want to have a routine, but you don't want to take on so much responsibility that you neglect your sobriety or you neglect what it is that's been helping you, whether it's AA or therapy.
But why don't people look at it? My uncle, who I wish very health to, had double bypass a couple couple weeks ago. An amazing, he bikes rides up through the Manhattan 120 miles a day. But nobody, the first thing he does when he gets out of his bed is, they put him on his bike and they go. Come on, Bob, like, and it's like when people get sober, there's a totally different approach. They're like, okay, now you're sober, come on. And I know there's a lot of anger and resentment. But you don't do that with anything else. Somebody just doesn't get out of chemo and you're like, let's go, move it.
Right. No. I mean, I think that's really important that you say that, because I think people out there are really hard on themselves and they feel a lot of pressure. They have to get back to work, go back to school, whatever it is. But the one thing is self-care is the most important thing when you first get sober. So if that has to come first, and then everything else will fall into place. But you have to make time for your sobriety and whatever that is that means for you, know?
And there's a definite acclimation process when you get out of rehab and get into, because most people are not like myself, and they haven't been through rehab 47 times, and they get out for the first time. And this is a new experience. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? How am I going to go eat dinner with people? How am I going to talk to this girl on the phone? How am I going to do? How am I going to go on a date?
Right. That's
which is like the biggest question.
Right. And these are the questions.
How am I going to date sober is one of the biggest. How am I not going to have champagne at my wedding? We should get a girlfriend first.
Exactly.
But it's like
I asked all those questions.
It's like every time I think about quitting smoking, right? The first thought is how am I gonna drive? I mean? And like how am I gonna and it's like amazing with addiction.
I love that you're
things.
saying that, because it's
you think 10 years ahead.
Yeah.
You always think about that. You're always thinking about, it's like, no, dude, you're just.
But that's the problem, that you can't live without the substance, whatever it is.
Right.
Nicotine,
and in the moment.
Yeah.
And I also think, and this is something that occurred to me, they talk about the pink cloud. When you get out of rehab, you might be on that pink cloud. And obviously you are, because you just came from a situation where you were totally and completely hopeless and dark, where you had no hope.
Right.
You go into rehab, you start going to some meetings, you start meeting some people, you start getting a little bit of spirituality in your life, and all of a sudden you have hope. And hope looks a lot different than hopelessness.
Right.
Of course.
So now I'm looking at hope, and it's, of course, you're on a pink cloud. It's amazing. But then you go through, you've been out of rehab for a couple, 3 weeks, a month, stuff starts going on, the girl says something, this happens, and you start having feelings, and then the hope starts to go away a little bit.
Well, you have to learn how to sustain it.
You have to, and you also have to learn how to deal with disappointment.
Oh, you have to deal with life. That life's going to happen, and emotions are going to come up.
Something I actually want to ask you about. We're in the studio tonight with Louie Sabatasso, and Erica is co-hosting with me tonight. An amazing job, Erica Spiegelman. Give us a call at 888-539-2980. I'm sorry. I just gave out the old radio station number. That's 888-375-3613. That's 888-375-3613. If you give that call, you might talk to somebody else.
It happens.
It does happen. And let's go to Jillian from Encino. Welcome to Clean Radio, Jillian.
Hi, Jillian.
Hey, hi. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I just listened to the show for the first time, and I love hearing things about recovery. And I wanted to say that there's a really important tradition in certain program that's called anonymity.
Yes.
The spiritual foundation of the program. And I want to say that a lot of people don't understand that tradition.
Most people don't understand that tradition, Jillian.
So when we encourage an individual, it's really clear. We maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, film, and other forms of communication.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that as a member, let's say, or a good friend of a guy named Bill, I really value that tradition. And so even though it feels good to go, let me just say the program, it actually breaks that really important tradition that's there for a really good reason.
Right.
I just wanted to communicate that as
Jillian, first of all, I appreciate your thoughts, and I really do. And but here's the thing. Sometimes something could be so anonymous, Jillian, that people aren't getting help. And if you go back in the 12 steps or any of those worlds, people actually used to give their last names so people could find them.
in the room, though. No.
Yes, and right. And every individual, Jillian, and you're really raising a valid point. Every individual is able to, it has to make the decision on themselves.
They have the right to.
They have the right to.
Yeah, and I don't believe anybody's mentioned any specific programs in this radio station.
So
no, intentionally didn't, because I too put
Right.
a lot of value in that tradition. And I
Right.
would never break it, so that's why there was no mention of really anything in that regard.
I misunderstood. My bad, as the kids say.
And Jillian, I mean, it's a very thin line what you're talking about. And I have to pray about this stuff all the time because there's a thin line because, there's so many shows on the air that give a disaccurate portrayal of treatment. Or of the 12-step world, or you have celebrities that are talking about things that, it's not my business. So one of the things that's very important to do is try to give a clear and accurate picture of what sobriety can look like.
And it could look like many different things. Yeah.
So
we tried to actually put that out there, that there's many different recipes and there's not one way. So we tried to, we try to give everybody has a path, and we tried to validate that for everyone.
Right.
And I don't know who this guy Bill is, but he sounds like a good guy. Say hello to him for me.
Thanks a lot. Have a great night.
Thank you too, Jillian. And that was Jillian, and it's actually a question we've been asked. It was a question, it's a question we get asked all the time about anonymity and breaking your own anonymity. And honest to God, Louie, I mean, you and I we're 12-step guys. I'm not going to say which 12-step group.
Listen, there's nobody who's ever met me who's surprised or not happy that I'm sober.
Right.
So it doesn't.
And that's another thing I would say all the time. It's like when people are a little bashful about being sober. I used to urinate openly on the street.
Yeah, I don't.
You're proud. You both are proud.
I'm not any more bashful about, and that's my thing. The New York Times actually did an amazing story this year about the A in Anonymous. And is it really, and it does. On a personal level, it is. Just like my spirituality is on a personal level.
Yeah.
But people do need to get help. How else are people supposed to find it?
If no one talked about anything, then how would anybody know anything?
That's exactly right. I want to know a guy's a gynecologist.
Right.
I don't want to know the exact work he's doing. Okay, but how am I supposed to find him?
Right.
By him talking about his gynecology.
But also the two of you guys are so. You guys are.
I was in a hurry. I had to come up with something.
But you two are so proud of your sobriety, and you know what I said? I think that says a lot about whatever it is that's been helping you. And so at the same time, I want other people to be attracted to you two, because that is what they need. Maybe some people need
But I
that.
respect Jillian's, and I do respect that. And I realize that, but if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. Give us a call at 888-375-3613. That's 888-375-3613. We're in the studio tonight with Erica Spiegelman and Louie Sabatasso. I was about to call you by your old nickname that a past guest on the show, Tony Dennison, used to call you Louie Two Phones.
Louie Two Phones.
Oh, really?
And I was making fun of him before until I actually realized I also have two phones. It's one I don't use. It's one's a Rolodex. And
one you use as a Rolodex.
Right.
It's very common. I used to do it. But it's interesting because there is a lot of, it is a weird thing right now because there are so many TV shows, there are so many things where stuff like this is brought up and where anonymity is kind of in question, and that is sort of evolved and turned into what it's turned into. I just did we launched a webisode last night that's a really super dark comedy about sober living that's called Sober Living. And it's a really dark comedy about what goes on in sober livings because there's some
scandalous
dark
comedy because sober livings tend to be dark comedy.
There's some scandalous stuff that go on in a lot of sober livings, and this is a really funny. I play a real scumbag sober living manager named Maxwell Waker.
Yes,
my friend Leland Carlton created the show, and it's really quite funny.
I bet there's a lot of material.
Where do people find the show, by the way?
Well, you can do it. You can go on. It's on YouTube under. Sober Living Pilot, and it's also, you can do facebook.com/Sober Living Show, and if you go on the Facebook page, you can like the Facebook page and then click on to the first webisode on there, facebook.com/Sober Living Show. And it's good, it's funny. My friend, like I said, my friend of mine, Leland Carlton, asked me to do it a couple of months ago, and I said yes, because that's my new thing, Judah. From being in recovery, I say yes to anything creative right now. I say yes,
and that's. I always say that was my. Louie knows my story. I could be speaking at a 12-step study. I don't want to call it a meeting to break anonymity, but Louie could literally recite my story.
Yes.
There are times when I'm speaking where Louie finishes my punchlines.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, Heather out there, Facebook, she goes, I want to add Jim Croce's song "Age" onto a recovery song. I'm not familiar with Jim
don't know
Croce,
that one,
but Heather, I'm sure it's an amazing song. Let's go to Alicia in New Mexico. Welcome, Alicia, to KLEAN Radio.
Welcome, Alicia. Hi.
Hi, Judah. Hi, Erica.
Hi.
And Louie.
I don't want to get. get you guys off your topic. I
No,
just actually tuned in.
We're topicless, Alicia.
Yes. Anything you want to
But
talk
I love
about.
you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm so nervous. Gosh.
So are we.
Listening to you guys. I've been listening to you guys for over a month, and I listen to you every morning. My fiance has you guys downloaded on my iPod, so you guys.
That's
rock.
so cool.
I didn't even know that was
That's
possible.
so cool.
Yeah, go
so
for it.
cool.
And you could get that at
Listen to you hourly,
cleanradio.com. I didn't pay Alicia to call.
Yeah.
So
Go on. Yeah.
So how long are you sober, Alicia?
It's 49 days.
Nice.
That's
That's
amazing.
great.
Yeah, it's a struggle. You know, I live in a really small town, so I'm completely super nervous to go.
So do we, by the way.
But
Yeah, LA's a very
Yeah, we're in a tiny.
little
It
borough.
actually,
Yeah,
just so you
completely.
know, there's a writer named David Milch who wrote many shows like NYPD Blue, but he's got a great line where he says, New York's a small town and LA's a street corner. And it's, I mean,
It's because it becomes a small town. It becomes a small little community.
But anyway, sorry
Depends-
to interrupt, Alicia.
yeah.
Go on. So you're
Yeah.
sober 49 days.
yes.
You're in a
yes,
small
49
town.
days. I'm in a really small town, and I am here because of the military. My fiance is military, so I don't really have like that big of a support group. I go to
Community,
this
yeah.
thing called Celebrate Recovery. It's through a church, and then a women's meeting I go to, and I have them all tuned into you guys. And
Oh,
That's
so
amazing.
great.
I got the church in New Mexico
Yeah.
listening to me, the women there. Yeah.
It's so cool to find out.
Huh.
Very nice.
yeah, but anyways, Erica, I like
Yeah.
your approach to things. I know that
Thank you.
I've been listening to you, and I know that you're not really big into the 12 steps, correct?
No, I'm not.
She's big in Japan.
I definitely learned a lot about the 12-step program when I got sober myself. And I think it's very helpful for many people, and the clients that I see, it's very useful for some of them, and I appreciate their approach. And I take a little bit from that. I take a little bit from, kind of mind, body, and spirit, and nurturing yourself, and kind of taking the time to constantly grow and learn and read and do nice things for yourself. And, I think that there's many ways to live a sober and happy and healthy life.
Erica
so.
is the most 12-step person that has never been to a meeting. I'm sure you've been to a couple, but she
Yeah,
literally lives. She lives an amazing value system. So Erica's one of the few people that you actually meet that, even though she might not go to the 12 steps, doesn't resent the 12 steps.
no,
but you know
no.
what I mean.
No, and
It's
I
like,
think that's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people get some people, I believe, don't get into the whole recovery because they're scared of
Yeah.
the 12 steps and being in the rooms and,
Right.
being vulnerable and having to talk. So I think it's great to have that perspective. And
Yeah, and I always
you
say to
know.
people that you could have 12 steps, and you could also have spirituality, and you could have therapy, and you can have, you could run and use exercise as something that helps you, or
could do whatever you
You
want.
could use reading
Yeah.
and
exactly, whatever works.
So
Right.
and
for
so
you.
I never say to put all your eggs in one basket and make that your life. You have to have a balance, and you have to have a couple different things, because if God forbid you want to go travel, you want to do this or that, you can't rely on one thing to keep you sober. You have to have an array of things.
So Alicia, so you've been sober 49 days. Next Sunday night is going to be 56.
That's awesome.
I would love for us to do sort of like because you're in New Mexico. Let's do a day count with you. Every Sunday you call us up till you have 90 days. And in 90 days, we're going to give you a pretty cool gift.
That sounds awesome.
That's awesome, guys.
And,
I appreciate it so much. You guys
And-
rock.
I didn't
listen-
say what the gift is.
No,
It-
You said pretty cool.
yeah, well, it could be
Very clear
Tesla
about that.
tickets.
But
Yeah,
it-
if
it could
Tesla
be-
ever
That's
plays in
exciting
New
for me.
It
Mexico,
could be a
Yeah.
Tesla. It could, but don't get too excited. You could get a Goo Goo Dolls / Tesla mixed CD tape from
you
Judah.
actually
I don't
just
want it
might.
then.
Alicia, and
yeah.
also we're your support group.
Yeah.
We try to be your support group. I would love for you to, if you go to ericaspiegelman.com, you can add yourself to my newsletter, and I have a group I'm going to put together for women that are all over, live in different states that could kind of help support each other.
So Alicia,
That's awesome.
Alicia, we got to run, but let me ask you just one quick question before you go. How have the past 49 days been?
Good question.
I would say it's easy, but it's not. It's been hard. I've been having to, face a lot of issues, but I just enjoy the company of my kids, and I'm mentally there, and I'm like, so that's great. I'm really I have 2 young kids, so this is not just for me; it's for them too. And
Good
it's
for
just nice to be there and be there for them mentally. So
That's
I'm
amazing.
looking forward to being,
We're proud of you here.
Yeah.
doing this up.
And I want to
Thank
hear
you
from
so
you
much,
on day
guys.
56, which is next
I
Sunday
will.
night.
I will
Yes.
call.
Okay,
Yes.
great,
Have
Alicia.
a great week.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
take
Alicia.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And if you just tuned in, that was Alicia calling from some little town in New Mexico.
Mexico.
But isn't every town in New Mexico little? No.
Well, I think there's small
Albuquerque.
towns.
Yeah.
Albuquerque's
big.
kind of sizable.
And Albuquerque is kind of sizable.
Sizable
I've
town.
been to Albuquerque. I
Yes.
actually got stuck on a tram in Albuquerque.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
For about 5 hours. And anyways, we're running out of time, but let's go to John in Dallas, Texas. John, welcome to Clean Radio.
Hi, John.
Hey, how y'all doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. This is my first time tuning in the show. I got to tell you, it's a pretty cool deal.
Thank you.
I work in radio in Dallas, and gosh, I've always had the idea in the back of my mind it'd be cool to have a talk show about recovery.
And it is. It's actually a pretty cool idea.
It's a great
Yeah.
compliment.
So I mean, I've
You
been
could always
sober
do
a
it.
couple of years, and I don't know, the topic I want to bring to you guys tonight. I know you're probably running out of time, but
It's okay.
I think there's a mixed message out there between alcoholics and addicts. And, when I got in the rooms, I came in and out, and, a lot of treatment centers and whatnot, but I was confused. I didn't exactly know what the disease actually was and, how to, I don't know, I guess I struggled with the idea of having a choice and whether or not I drank or used.
It's a great, I mean,
So I guess I've,
no, sorry.
go ahead.
Are you
No,
asking
go
the
ahead.
people who drink and drug have a choice?
Right. What do y'all think about that?
I think it's actually a great question, and I was actually talking about this with somebody today. When you're drinking and taking drugs, you don't have if you're an alcoholic or an addict and you're in addiction, your choice is gone.
Well, there's some scientific
Yeah.
evidence that as you continue to take drugs and alcohol, your decision-making process is affected by the drugs and alcohol. So
Right.
you don't see things as clearly, and it's not about it's not about
Yeah.
will at a certain point.
It's when you get sober that's when you have a choice.
yeah.
These are really
I think it's a
tough.
little bit of both,
Yeah.
to be honest, to answer that question.
Louis, what do you
Yeah.
think?
When I got sober, what I found is that the real problem for me started where the bottle stopped. I had to deal with life, like you guys were talking about earlier, and it's something I never really knew how to face or, cope with unless I was drunk or unless I was using.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, had to find some new tools where I could operate in the world,
I think what you're saying is absolutely correct, and I think it's one of the cool thing about Louie's movie, which you were here, is that it's this journey when somebody gets out of rehab and all of a sudden life is facing them. Mm-hmm. One of the things, I mean, I'm sure you've seen Shawshank Redemption. I'm sure a lot of people out there, and there's a line in it where he says the walls have become your friends. And so many people know how to live in addiction,
Right,
and they
right.
become comfortable in the addiction, and then when they all of a sudden get the life,
Right.
and I said this at a meeting the other night, I said, I'm not going to scare you by telling you you're going to die. If I would have told Louie or you out there, hey, you're going to die if you continue using, you'd be like, I don't care.
Right.
It doesn't scare you. If I tell you, John, you're going to live an amazing life, that scares you.
Right.
Yeah, or you're gonna live for another 50 years as miserable as you are right now. That's terrifying. And the difference between being in a situation where you physically need and there is no choice.
Right.
When I'm in my addiction and I am drinking and using, I have something in my system from the second I come to in the morning till I fall asleep at night. There's something in my system, and even the idea of drawing a sober breath is terrifying. So once I get the drugs and alcohol out of my system and I'm sober, there is more choice involved. There's more choice in doing the work that I need to do on a daily basis to
John,
not want to pick up drugs and
John,
alcohol.
do me a favor. Call back next week because it's actually a great topic I want to continue
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
And
All right, excellent. I'll do it. Thanks for
I'm
having me
really
on.
happy you found this. Thank you, John from
Have
Texas.
a great night.
And have a great night. And that's a great phone call. It's right. This is like the
It's a great
hardest
question.
It is. It's like something everybody struggles with. That every
Yeah.
professional, people have searched this for years.
Right.
Is it?
And there's no yes or no. It's complicated. And like Louie was saying, there's a physiological addiction too. Sometimes we are physically addicted to drugs and we can't just stop.
Yeah, the choice is kind of removed.
I just
Yeah.
want to take a 30-second quick phone call. Our producer's going to kill me, but I really want to hear from Patrick in Texas.
Hi,
Patrick, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hi, Patrick. Good to hear from you.
How you doing? No, I don't know. By the way, if anybody just tuned in, Patrick has been struggling with addiction for
Yeah.
a while, and He's trying to get it. He's trying to get sober. And I just want to, are you able to do it now or?
No, not quite. I really called in because of the last caller. He really home with a lot of stuff.
Okay, so we've offered you a free bed in rehab, and you know that still applies whenever you're ready to take it, Patrick.
Patrick, take it.
Yeah.
Free bed in
We've
rehab?
offered him a bed in rehab, and
He's been calling in for several months.
for almost half a year.
Half a year, yeah.
Come on.
And Patrick, I got to run, but I tell you what, you have a week to decide, and I want you to be the first caller next week. And tell me,
Yeah, I'll call next week.
and I want you to be the first caller and tell me if you're going to take that bed in rehab next week.
Well, hopefully I don't need the bed.
Hopefully you don't need the bed. Hopefully we'll give you the couch.
Patrick, take the bed.
Yeah. Okay,
Don't be a
Patrick. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you this week.
Bye, Patrick.
And if anybody out there is wondering what addiction is, that's that really is in a sense, Louie and Erica. That's addiction is that. I still think I could do it my own way.
Right.
I still think I could do it on my own.
And the
know,
notion that
I know.
maybe this time next week he's not going to need to be in rehab.
Right.
That's the lie that we all tell
And we're
ourselves
not laughing
constantly.
at you.
I know.
We've
No,
done that.
Exactly.
That was me.
I
That
don't
was
want
just-
him to think that but that's
Patrick was just myself calling in here, and that's exactly. I know that he is convinced of that. Next week he might not need it.
right.
And that's amazing.
And we're not we're not.
Louie,
it's
that's
we've all done that, and
Yeah.
it's just it's like it's like there was a show called The Mind of a Married Man, right? That's the mind of an alcoholic person.
Oh, yeah.
Is that next week I might not need the bed.
You might not need the bed.
Maybe
Yeah.
tomorrow I will
Yeah.
not drink. I don't know.
We'll put the bed on layaway. Anyways,
Yeah.
Louie, really, I beg of people. Actually, you know what, Ashley? That's what I'm going to treat you to. That's my first gift, our first gift until you get 90 days. I'm going to, whenever Louie's movie comes out on iTunes, we're going to get you that movie, Wish You Were Here, and you got to call and
That's a
watch the
great
show.
gift.
It is a great gift.
That's a
And then
great
at
gift.
90 days, you get something even better. It's like a compilation of the Goo Goo Dolls.
There's not
and,
much better than that,
yeah.
bud. You
And
can't say Goo Goo Dolls are better than Wish You Were Here.
No,
Come on.
definitely not. But
Alicia.
no, it's a mix of Tesla and the Goo Goo Dolls. But Louie, tell everybody where they can find this movie.
Wish You Were Here on iTunes. There's other Wish You Were Here titles up, so make sure it's Wish You Were Here with Louie Sabatasso. Because there's we have a couple documentaries on Wish You Were Here, but it might be the only one on iTunes. So
Okay.
Wish You Were Here on iTunes. It'll be up in a couple
Now,
weeks.
Floyd is now on iTunes.
Yeah, and also, no. Pink Floyd, obviously. So make sure it's not Wish You Were Here song. Wish You Were Here, the movie on iTunes. And also Sober Living, the Sober Living pilot on Facebook. Sober Living show. Sober Living, Facebook's slot.
That's so great. Sounds like so many exciting things for
Yeah.
you.
No, it is, and that's the thing about sobriety, and that I love, and Louie is the perfect example
Yep.
of. It's like things get good. Things get good really fast.
They do.
They do.
And
It's
some-
actually facebook.com/Sober Living Show.
Okay.
Perfect.
And part of the problem is that they come back so quickly that we forget.
Yeah.
And I really want to thank Louie Sabatasso. You've been one of my oldest and closest friends. I didn't get to tell enough stories about how you've helped me out. And, the show's over, but world-class addiction assistance is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at KLEANradio.com. That's clean with a K. If you're just getting your phone right now, give us a call at 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Don't worry about money. It's about you getting the help you need right now. The conversation continues at KLEANradio.com. That's clean with a K.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.